To call to order the annual meeting for March 29th, 2022, asking Teresa to call the roll.
All right. Mayor Biassiata.
Here.
Ms. Duarte.
Here.
Mr. Joyce.
Here.
Mayor Kumar.
Here.
President Lucas.
Present.
Ms. McCall.
Here.
Ms. Moss.
Here.
Ms. Peo.
Here.
And Mayor Weiss.
Present.
We have 9 board members present.
And will you read the certification?
Mr. President, I first advise that notice of this meeting has been posted more than 24 hours in advance of the meeting, that the usual notification has been given the news media and other interested persons, and that all requirements of the Ohio Revised Code and rules and bylaws of this board regarding notice of meeting have been complied with.
Thank you very much. We're going to begin our meeting today with the oath for our newest member, and we certainly welcome Mayor Biassiata from Seven Hills, and we're asking our legal counsel to swear him in for the board. And welcome, welcome, my brother.
I, Anthony Biassiata, hereby solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will honestly, faithfully, and impartially perform the duties of the office of member of the Board of Trustees of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority, and that I will not be personally interested, directly or indirectly, in any contract led by the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mayor, it's our tradition that when you are first installed, you get a chance to make a speech.
Thank you.
Mayor, if you just hit that button right there. Yeah.
I'll be brief. I know we have a large agenda today. Transit and connecting people to jobs and family is a very passionate thing of mine. And I look forward to putting all my efforts and experience into helping all of you help our residents in Cuyahoga County achieve even greater connections, efficiencies, and service through connecting families and people with jobs through the job we do here. So without further ado, I thank my fellow mayors for appointing me to this position, and I thank everybody here at Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority who's onboarded me, and I think did a really good job to get me ready for today's meeting. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Again, welcome. We will now proceed with the annual meeting. We will have our election, and because I am one of the candidates, we're going to ask the chairman of the nominating committee if he will conduct the election today. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was in receipt for the nomination in the office of the president from Reverend Lucas. I would ask the floor and indeed in front of the body, are there any more nominations for office of president? Any more nominations for office of president? Are there any more nominations? Hearing none, I do close, and by order of a white ballot, declare Reverend Lucas our president. Congratulations, Reverend.
Thank you very much. I have really enjoyed.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I believe we do have to have a vote You do have to have a motion.
do we?
A motion and a second.
I apologize.
That's okay.
That's all right,
I
that's
move-
fine.
Do we have a motion for
Yes.
Reverend Lucas?
So moved, Valerie.
Second.
Luz.
Okay,
It's been moved and second. Teresa, the roll call?
okay, great. All right, Mayor Biassiata? Yes. Ms. Duarte?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Here. Yes.
Mayor Kumar?
Yes.
President Lucas?
Yes,
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Peo?
Yes.
And Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
All right, we have 9 ayes and none opposed. All right, it's official, he's the president.
thank you very much. Let me again say thank you to this board for entrusting me with this very important position. I have enjoyed it so much last year. Sometimes people look at this position and think that it just requires you presiding at a couple board meetings, but that's not what really happens. Rarely a day goes by that my phone doesn't ring to talk about something that's going on or hear something that's happened. I've had a wonderful relationship with this board, and I would want that to continue. My telephone number stays the same, and I will be listening, and any suggestions you might have, any additions, or anything you want to talk about, you know, I'm available. To our CEO and to the members of the staff, they have just been wonderful, and we have had quite a year together. We've had some tough decisions to make, and we've made them, and we've done well. I often think about the scripture when Paul was asked, you have all this to do to be a Christian, and he said, well, you have all this to do, well, how do you answer? And the answer is, I counted all the joy. And I certainly counted all the joy to serve as your president. I look forward to a good year coming up. Thank you again for entrusting me with this office.
Thank you, Reverend. Now I'll open up the nomination election for the office of Vice President. I was in receipt for a letter from Karen Moss. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Valerie.
Thanks,
Luz, second.
Valerie. Second.
Luz, second.
Therese, can you call the roll call?
Mayor Biassiata?
Yes.
Ms. Duarte?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Mayor Kumar?
Yes.
President Lucas?
Yes,
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Moss?
Yes.
Ms. Peo?
Yes.
And Mayor Weiss?
Yes.
We have 9 ayes and none opposed.
Thank you, Teresa. Aaron, any words?
Just a couple of brief words because it's hard act to follow a preacher. I would like to thank the nominating committee because I know there's some work involved in that, and I've enjoyed my time as vice president, and I appreciate the vote of confidence, and I've enjoyed my time working and getting to know Reverend Lucas better, and I appreciate all your support on my nomination.
Thank you. With that, I'll turn it back to our chair, Reverend Lucas.
all right, we have a motion to adjourn the annual meeting.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, do we need a roll call on this, or can we do it by?
I don't believe so unless someone is opposing that we're adjourning this
All
meeting.
right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. We now adjourn the annual meeting. Again, thank you very much. And again, thank you, Terry, for the work you did as chairman of the nominating committee, and you presided so well today. We now turn to our agenda for the board meeting today, and we begin with the committee of the whole. Will you please read the roll?
President Lucas?
Present.
Ms. Moss?
Here.
Mayor Biassiata?
Here.
Ms. Duarte?
Here.
Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Mayor Kumar?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Here.
Ms. Peo?
Here.
And Mayor Weiss?
Here.
We have 9 committee members present.
All right, our first item today is a presentation on the proposed public square collaboration. And we have a number of people who are going to present. I do want to say this to our board today. Today, we are going to just hear the presentation. There will not be a vote. This will give you the opportunity to hear everything that's being put out and anything that you want to ask today or through until we come to the next meeting. Well, thank you very much. And with that, I will turn it over to our first presenter, our Deputy General Manager of Engineering Project, one of the best in the country, and that is Mike Shipper. Mike?
All right. Thanks, Reverend. Mike Shipper, Deputy General Manager, Engineering and Project Management. Also joining me at the podium will be Nora Romanoff from the Group Plan Commission. Just a little overview from the RTA perspective, because we have a lot of new board members. One piece that I don't know everyone knows about is that when we built the health line, as part of that, we built and rebuilt all the perimeter roads around Public Square and the interior roadways for both Superior and Ontario when Ontario existed there. So that was all part of the health line project. And the Public Square was part of not only the health line, but also the transit zone piece, which had huge transportation benefits in our ability to get the FTA, full funding grant agreement for the project. When the group plan moved forward with the reconstruction of the square, Ontario was removed and Superior Avenue was reconstructed and it was reconfigured as part of the work that they did in 2016. In 2017, temporary barriers and planters were placed in the square to mitigate safety and security concerns. Those temporary measures remain in place. But since that time, RTA has been working behind the scenes with the Group Plan Commission and others to come up with permanent solutions that would address the safety and security concerns. And that's what we're presenting today, is moving from that 5 years of temporary to something that's permanent and will benefit our operations. These are pictures of our operations. This is a typical afternoon rush hour. I took these pictures last Thursday. We run a lot of bus service through the square. The picture on the left actually has 4 different vehicles. The one on the right also has 4 different, and those aren't the same ones in the picture on the right. And we serve stations and shelters that are in 4 locations on Superior on either side of the barriers. The temporary barriers have been in place. They do get removed for events, but it takes a lot of time and money and disrupts our service every time that they're moved. Another thing that has happened is that because of the concentration of the buses in the center, the pavement, the border, the bricking has deteriorated pretty rapidly. And unfortunately, our buses are causing that, but they're also driving over it, and it impacts, whatever the longevity of our vehicles. So the other part of this is that when the square was originally designed, the handicap ramps were out in these areas. So the ramps are there with the barriers, but now these temporary ADA ramps, have been in place the last 5 years. They can easily be moved for the events. But for our ADA community, this is, after 40 years of the ADA Act, this is just ridiculous. So the picture on the right, again, shows one of our vehicles, traversing basically that temporary patch, which sometimes that temporary patch pops out and it's a steel plate. So there is a lot of wear and tear on our vehicles. As we go forward, I'll have Nora will come up and talk about the permanent plan that has been developed by the Group Plan Commission. And with that, I'll have Nora Romanoff come up. Forward, back, pointer.
Good morning. Reverend Lucas, can I take off my mask? Is that okay? Thank you for calling this a collaboration. I really appreciate that. Nora Romanoff, I work for Land Studio, but I'm here on behalf of the Group Plan Commission. I have a brief presentation today, but especially for the benefit of any new staff members or board members, I would be glad to answer questions. And I understand this is just kind of a statement of where we are for future discussions. One thing I wanted to note that's not explicitly outlined in my timeline is the nature of the collaboration of our partnership with RTA. And the way that I demonstrate that best is to point out that every Tuesday at 1 o'clock for 62 weeks, as proposed by Joel Freilich, who I see in the room, we sat together as a team. And that meant a great deal to me because it pushed me to understand and to really live the deep devotion of this staff and this board to its riders. So it's in that spirit that I come to you today with this proposal and this continued collaboration. So forgive anything that's brief up on the screen. It's meant more as a summary, and I'd be happy to go into detail. Timeline, we joke, we did open in June of 2016 after 15 months and 16 years of process. As any good project manager knows, it takes more than what people see, obviously, in the construction period. As Mike mentioned, and Mike is the best in the country, I've never met another Mike Shipper, that's for sure. We did a lot of careful study together with RTA and our traffic consultant, Nelson Nygaard, 33 intersection traffic and transit study multimodal to close Ontario and to reduce the width of Superior. This is a very high-level summary, but after the opening of the square, Superior remained closed for continuity for many reasons, but not the least of which was continuity for riders, because the square was going to remain closed during the Republican National Convention, which everyone will remember took place in July of that same year. There was some positive feedback. There were discussions that ensued. I won't get into those details now, and as Mike mentioned, the barriers went into the square. We were called in early 2017 to look at those temporary measures and to propose with the original design and engineering team a solution. I listed some of the people that reviewed the process. This was not meant to be a redesign. It was meant to be just addressing temporary elements and making them permanent. We were engaged for additional input after the election of Mayor Bibb, and here we stand today for continued discussions. I also want to note that we have had wonderful conversations with Ms. Birdsong and continue to do so. And we'll see if I can click yes. So where are we now? I apologize, there's a typo in the first line of this. I'm sorry to the board. I think it's important to understand where we are in terms of time and place as we come to you. The city is currently discerning legislation that was first introduced on March 7th. I represent land in the group plan, but not the city. I think many of us understand how the legislative process works as it's introduced and then goes before relevant committees. We're working on contract updates. We are working on behalf of a definitive agreement, which is the governing document that allowed the Group Plan Commission to perform the project in the first place. This is relevant because we have Donleys and Osborne, and Joe Frenzy is here with us today. He was the chief engineer of the original project. And I stress that because we have brought back the original team for budget and timeline efficiencies. We are working on updated drawings. What I will show you are fairly rudimentary in that they are a continuation of our as-builts, but in terms of a proposal, they're probably 30 or 40% design development. We're working on utility coordination. If I received an education through RTA, I received an education through the 23 utilities that are below grade on Public Square. We will continue that. There is not a person on our team that doesn't understand the impacts of utilities on this project. It's a beautiful utility project with a park on top, and we understand how important it is to continue that coordination. What are the scope priorities? This is something that we're asked a lot. We talk a lot about Superior and the Bollard and curb. You'll hear in some audiences they're retractable bollards. We are not doing retractable bollards. We are proposing removable. I can get into the nuance of that if it's helpful, but just know that 12 inches below grade on public square are those utilities we talked about, so nothing is retracting really. The hardscape repair that Mike mentioned, we have done a careful concrete study. I'm certainly happy to provide detail on that. What we call the Raptor Install, which is a closure at East and West Superior, that we have some imagery on and I can talk about again in detail. There are other entries that are not as relevant to this conversation here today, but where there are planters placed in the walkways, we will be retrofitting with bollards. And then, of course, hard and soft costs, so we want to consider everything. Our team has a proposed cost estimate that we are now discerning. Be aware we created a cost estimate before we understood the city and RTA's motivation to help leverage their support in this process. So we are now, with commitment from the city, looking at that cost estimate. And we're fundraising, which is important. And then there are certain assumptions that I want to make sure this board understands we are very aware of, which is continuity of design. I have a saying, I don't want this to look like old shoes on a new dress. We want this to look like the park, so it doesn't look like it's a retrofit. It looks very intentional, and that's important. We understand bikes, we understand timeline, and Mike Schipper would not let me leave this presentation without saying we understand that the finished width needs to be 26 feet and not 24. So this is very subtle, and I would just point everybody to, let's see if I can do this, the middle section here. This is original, or if you will, existing conditions without the temporary elements. This is the central crossing of Superior, what we sometimes call the butterfly. This is as originally designed and built. And then if you just watch that center of your screen, this is the proposal. And it's really a permanent solution to the temporary elements that are out there. It just acknowledges that we can no longer sustain the Jersey barrier movement. The curbing and bollards will replace that movement. Just a couple other visuals. Mike's pictures were a bit better, but I think everybody's familiar with what is out there today. So we will remove the barriers. There also needs to be signal removal and replacement, and understanding you can't change one signal in the square without understanding it's a system and that we have to change all of them. We'll work together with the city and traffic engineering and RTA to understand what that balancing looks like. Crosswalk removal and replacement. The temporary elements that are out there now may be ADA compliant. I won't speak to that from my position of expertise, but what we will be doing is installing permanent ADA crossings at a central crossing for clarity, circulation, and certainly to adhere to requirements. These are proposed bollards. A couple things of this, and I, again, defer to the experts, but we'll tell you that we understand on one side of the spectrum, the design continuity is important. We want this to look like the rest of the square, but also we will need to, and Osborne has started to do this, engineer each bollard individually because of that below grade condition, that they will be security core installed, many of them, and some removable for ease of access, programming, and so on. So these don't look too exciting, but they do meet all of those requirements, and we wanted it to be a simple application of a complex bollard. Planters, again, this is the deck that I show to a lot of people. I think everyone has kind of walked past these for the last 5 years. These will be removed, the planters. Again, not as relevant to this body. The plating and the reconstruction of the central crossing and the movement of the stop bars, which will go together with the signaling we talked about. And then this is the Raptor system. And just, I'll take a moment on this. This is part of our budget that we are in deep discernment on because of special event closures. Oftentimes, temporary elements need to be installed East and West Superior. We've all seen the variations on that. One of the things that our team is considering is this Raptor system, and there's a nice precedent over at the Federal Reserve. They are retrofitting their entrances with this system. The benefit of it is it's a very shallow install, which is very important in a city like Cleveland where there's a below grade element almost everywhere. I like it in particular because, of course, it's a mechanical operation, but there's a manual override and there's an ease in terms of operations, and certainly with deference to Sana Julian and her team who manage the care and feeding of Public Square on a daily basis. So we would like to consider this. This is right now probably an add-on in the budget, but we are getting into those numbers now. I won't speak to that. So we stand before you, here's where we are in time and place, as I mentioned. I'd be happy to answer any questions. But we will continue our due diligence with the city and certainly with RTA and other partners. And I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
One question, when the bollards go in, will Superior in the center open up the 4 lanes again?
Well, no. So as proposed, it will, the original 4 lanes, which are 48 feet width, will taper down to the 2 lanes as they are today. And what Mike has asked us to include is that those 2 remaining lanes would be 26 feet each. This is important because of the cartway, the weave, the needs of the buses, and so on. So we've taken that into account. So those dimensions will remain, if you will, as they are out there today.
Yeah, but in clarification, where those white boxes are, that'll be 48 feet where our station areas are. So that part will function the same. And then it will, again, it will narrow down, kind of an hourglass type of situation where we go from 48 to 26. And it will be shaped in a way that our buses can maneuver.
All right, any other people who want to make comments?
Reverend Lucas? Mr. Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. First, I just want to thank them for coming before us this morning to present this to us, because I think it's very important that we see the presentation early on, so thank you. I do have a couple questions regarding the maintenance of the bollards after they are installed. How will they be maintained? Who will be responsible for the maintenance? Would that be part of the collaboration ongoing, or just want to?
Good morning. I'm Sana Julian with the Group Plan Commission. It is our responsibility on a daily basis to program, maintain, and operate Public Square, and it will continue to be our responsibility to maintain the bollards. So after the installation, we will have a full tutorial, as we have with every other element of Public Square, right down to every element of the splash pad, et cetera, and we will be maintaining the bollards. We will have a contract with the company that installs the bollards themselves to have an annual maintenance agreement so that we are maintaining the bollards. And then our staff will have simple instructions on the removal of the removable bollards and the Raptors themselves to operate them for ongoing use on a daily basis. So we will not have the expense of the city having to come in. It's $15,000 per time that the Jersey barriers were currently removed anytime there was an event. So for example, when you saw the removal recently for St. Patrick's Day, that was a $15,000 expense that was incurred for that removal. Plus then we incurred expenses generally every time the streets needed to be cleaned for an event. So the Jersey barriers were typically removed, but then we incurred expenses above and beyond that.
Okay.
So we will no longer incur those expenses
Okay,
additionally.
Thank you. And then the next couple of questions are more so for Nora. Just a couple, it's more in terms of what the bollards will look like and the retractors will look like, and then connecting to the project that's going on with Sherwin-Williams. One thing that I think we've done a really good job of is, as you know, RTA, we have an arts program with every project. But at the same time, I believe through you guys, we've done a really good job of incorporating art with the utility boxes throughout downtown, things that the library has done. So is there any way to try to incorporate some type of art feature? I don't know if that's possible or not, so that the bollards are not just bollards. We can infuse some art, and I don't know if that's possible to wrap them with some kind of art, but if not, I mean, just throwing it out there to give it some thought. And then with the Sherwin-Williams project going in, I don't know if there's been some conversation with them to collaborate around that as well. One, as we collaborate in partnership, but also, again, around what the bollards would look like. And then lastly, I saw the pictures of the planters, and I know you said they're coming out. Is there plans to put planters back in there so that there's a continuity between what the planters look like, what the rafters look like, what the bollards look like, that speaks to the beauty of Public Square connecting around our whole arts kind of feature there. I know that's a lot, but I know you're
Yes.
following where I'm going with
Yes,
that.
I do. Ms. McCall, if I forget any of the questions, just remind me.
It was really more so like just making sure
Aesthetics,
art, yeah, aesthetically,
continuity, yeah.
yeah, you got it.
Yes. So the short answer is yes. I found working for Land Studio that if you give an artist a solid object, they'll figure out a way to wrap it in something. But we continue our work kind of wearing a different hat. Ms. McCall will remember we activate the back of the cafe with new and emerging artists with our art wall. We are installing, hopefully, knock on wood, a piece yet this summer as we kind of recover as an arts community from the pandemic and those exciting things. So Public Square will continue to be a central canvas. And the continuity is so very important for many reasons. I think it shows a depth of investment and care that we are we're guided by. It's an objective of this team. And so that's why we had the original design team at James Corner Field Operations help select the bollards, and then Osborne to confirm, obviously, that they were viable for the needs that we have. You also mentioned Sherwin-Williams, and obviously I won't speak on behalf of that group, but there's a continuity that's important in terms of their plans for their exterior portion, their common areas, as we call them, but also something that I will touch on today, and I know we can get into the weeds on a bit, but it's the maintenance of traffic and understanding it's an active construction site, and as exciting as it is, it's also complicated in terms of the network of roads, and certainly in terms of transit riders and buses making their way through our central core. The good news is Joe Frenzy, who I'm pointing to behind this barrier, is working with the Sherwin-Williams team and on their maintenance of traffic. And so when we do go into, and I know this isn't a design issue, but more of an operations issue, when we're fortunate enough to go into construction for this project, we will have the depth of knowledge of what Sherwin-Williams is doing with their closures and openings and our closures and openings so that we have kind of a system in place. But yes, we would continue to keep that objective really strong with making sure that design and creativity and certainly ownership of these pieces continues as it has with the original park.
Any other, yes, Mayor?
Just a question on sort of the current status of the scope of the project. Just where are we in that process? And then also, as a corollary, I assume we're looking at a budgeting to match the scope, and I don't know where we might stand on the budget side.
Sure. At high level, just given, again, where we are in place and time, from last night, as of last night, the legislative process at the city, which is important in terms of the initial $1.5 million for this process, it was submitted for the legislative process on March 7th, and has been referred to two committees, Muni and forgetting the other one, but it's the Planning Commission, yeah, but we received a preliminary approval via Planning Commission for the process a week ago Friday. Short answer is it's going through the process and it is moving along nicely and is expected to be approved within the next few weeks based on the committee and full council process. And then what we have done is we took our budget, which was preliminary and admittedly conservative based on a number of things that we understand now, not the least of which is what everyone is calling the COVID premium, or just understanding where we have a supply chain issue. We have a lot of other materials and soft cost issues that we want to make sure that we are incorporating into our budget. With the recent movement with the city and certainly with this opportunity, we are taking a closer look at that budget and understanding where we need to sharpen some edges and where we need to round some corners. And we are doing that together with the original team and would certainly be happy to provide updates as we have them.
All right, any other questions? All right, Dr. Cable, did you have anything to add? Do you have any? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right next to me, my goodness.
First of all, I'd like to say that was a great presentation. I think both Nora and Mike did a good job getting new members up to speed, and it's been a long and rocky road, literally. And I think that it's great that we're addressing this issue. what I did hear, and it's really a follow-up to Mayor Weiss's question, is we're saying that I think maybe the board should have an idea what is being asked of us, an RTA, and what do we see? We see 1.5 million from the city, but I haven't heard the whole scope, and I know there's a COVID premium that you're working out, but I think there are numbers floating out there, and what would RTA's commitment be?
Absolutely. Yes, so we're going to look at a big picture scope of $3.5 million. And that's because we feel like there are so many unanswered nuances that we're looking at. So that's our fundraising goal. We are asking of RTA, we're going to come back and ask of RTA $500,000 as part of the big picture package. The city's contribution of 1.5 and the RTA hopeful contribution of 500,000 would get us to the 2 million. And we are actively fundraising with proposals in market for the balance of 1.5 million. We know that we're going to come in under that number, but we are hopeful that we can bring in the entire amount with whatever balance going to our operations maintenance budget for the bollards and other maintenance uses in the square. So that is what we are actively setting our goal towards, and that is what we actively have in the marketplace right now.
Anybody else? I looked that way down, I looked really little. All right. Dr. Caver, did you want to add anything today? And also, Ms. Bresson?
Chairman Lucas, members of the board, I'm Flauntay Caver, the Chief Operating Officer, and I did want to add just a bit of a context to the importance of public square to our transit system. The link between of Superior through the square is tremendously important to our system. Pre-COVID, in 2016, when we were constructing a square, and the square was closed and we had to go around, it decreased our on-time performance by approximately 5%. So our buses, particularly the vehicles that have to traverse through public square and make it to the west side, from an operational standpoint, if we don't get out of downtown on time, we can never catch up west of the river. And so the opportunity to have a better functioning square, one of the components of this will be reassessing the lights, the traffic signals, and making that more optimal is of tremendous value to our organization. You saw some of the items related to the degradation of the street there. When those sort of potholes erect themselves, it creates a safety concern for us because our buses either have to go left of center or we will just take them off for safety reasons and send them around the square. And when we do that, it creates other issues for customers who are not riding in the downtown area. And so just wanted to give you a perspective that the link of public square to us is tremendously important from an operational standpoint.
Thank you, Dr. Caver. India Birdsong, General Manager. I appreciate the emphasis on collaboration that was put in this morning. I think above all else, this is a really good indicator of the collaboration to come regarding the usage of our downtown area. When I first came to Cleveland 2.5 years ago, Public Square was still on the tips of many tongues and multiple media sources as well. I think that RTA still has some gaps in the plan that we're filling along with the group plan as the sort of engineering gets a little bit more succinct. And of course, the funding also is confirmed by the city as well as the group plan. I would recommend that the board continue to listen for those updates, and we'll make sure that we provide those to you. Our team, particularly our finance and our legal team, as well as operations and engineering, have peppered these two individuals with a lot of questions to make sure that we're understanding exactly where our money goes, should it be approved by the board, and then also what the functionality of the square would be so that it's in the best interest of connecting our riders to where they need to go. The operational component of this, I think, far reaches beyond any other benefit that could be achieved by us participating, but of course, that is up to the board when that time comes. So we did bring this to you today for discussion only, as our board chair indicated, so that you have an opportunity to digest. And we also can absolutely come back to you, hopefully in April, with additional updates regarding funding and also scope, if that is also refined as we get closer to it, so that we can bring it for full resolution and decision by the board at that time.
Right. Any other questions or discussion, Terry?
Yeah, thanks, Reverend, and it's probably to Doc. You know, when the square was done the first time, it was rather intense project, right? And being that we're kind of going down the middle of it now, for operation's sake, we'll have access to that perimeter, and will this time around be a little easier for us to navigate any future construction in that?
Yeah,
Or Mike,
talk,
or
but I'll let Mike
whoever,
answer.
sorry.
That's okay, Terry. As we work on our memorandum of understanding, which will come back to the board, one of the elements in there, and Fontaine, we've talked about this quite a bit, but one of the elements in there is when we would like to have the public square, the superior part of the construction done in a very intense, quick manner, which will allow us to divert around the square. But that would be a set timetable, whether it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. We still have to work with the team, but that's one of our requests, is that work get done in one continuous activity, so that we're only going around the square for a small portion. Obviously, given traffic downtown right now, the sooner that happens, the easier it is and the less impact it has on our operations. So that's what we're looking at, but we're going to work with the team to figure out what that time period is. Obviously, it depends on when they would start construction and finish the fundraising, but that's one element, so that we can have the least disruptive period that impacts the system. And obviously, as things happen around the perimeter, we can work around those areas like we do all the time.
Right? Anything else? If not, I certainly want to thank our visitors today. And don't consider yourself a visitor, because we're all in this together. And our local staff for presentation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
All right, may we have a motion to adjourn the committee meeting?
So moved, Valerie.
Second?
Second, Terry.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We are now so adjourned. On one thing I do want to announce, our brand new bus, our last order, we have one sitting out in front, and you're welcome to, I will hope all the board members will stop by and look at the new bus. You can even take a ride on it if you like. You ride around the corner. All right, thank you very much. All right, now we will now hear from the Audit Committee, Chairman, Vice Chair.
I'd like to call to order Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Audit Committee. The whole name is a long one, so I always have to read it. RTA Audit, Safety, Compliance, and Real Estate Committee. Teresa, will you call the roll?
All right, Ms. Moss?
Here.
Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Mayor Kumar?
Here.
Ms. McCall?
Here.
And Mayor Weiss.
Here.
We have 5 committee members present.
We have one item on our agenda, and it's a review, it's actually 2 things on the agenda, right, Tony? There's a review of the 4th quarter, and will you be presenting the proposed audit for this year?
Good morning, Chairperson Moss. Yes, I will.
Please.
Thank you. Again, good morning, President Lucas, Chairperson Moss, members of the Audit Committee, members of the board, and our executive management team. For the record, my name is Anthony Garofoli, Executive Director of Internal Audit, and I'm here to present the results of the fourth quarter internal audit activities. You should have received this report in your package, and I'll be referring to this report throughout my presentation.
Excuse me, Mr. Garofoli, can I just interrupt for 1 second? I just want to let the board know and the audience that we have taken a new tact with this committee, and the audit is, Tony is a direct report to the board, and our committee head of Terry Joyce, Mayor Kumar, Valerie McCall, and Mayor Weiss and myself are taking a much more active role in this, and that we've met before, and we're going to do that quarterly, and have taken a really deep dive on both the internal audit of the review as well as the new report, or what the items that we will be auditing this year. And so we will continue to do this. Tony will continue to report to the whole board as a whole, more in the fashion that he has. But of course, our meetings are open to the public. Of course, they're open to other board members' attendance if you're interested in going farther. But I think that we all thought it was a worthwhile effort, and it was the idea of having more knowledge in more people's hand and a careful eye of the organization, I think is working out really well. And sorry for interrupting you. I apologize.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. And just to share, we did meet with the Audit Committee on March the 8th for that in-depth review. And for today, I'll present a summarized view for everyone at this group. Again, referring to the quarterly audit report, on pages 4 and 5 of this report is the 2021 plan that was approved by the board in February of 2021. We executed that plan throughout the year, and we continued to execute some of the carryover projects into 2022. In addition to our audit plan and special requests, we continue to focus on some of our efforts on the risk the authority that was brought on by the pandemic, certainly during the fourth quarter. On page 8, you'll see that there's a section reserved for these audits during the pandemic. We did complete a review of the drawdown process and internal controls for the American Rescue Plan. And I want to just restate, because the federal government already issued a report and gave a good review, but that management controls are in place and working effectively to ensure compliance with all grant requirements. Moving on to pages 9 through 10, this is where we have our risk-based plan completed projects for the quarter. We always review all of the employee travel and expense reimbursements. Everything was in compliance with policies and procedures. We had a post-delivery Buy-America review for the 16 5-door articulated BRT coaches manufactured by New Flyer. Compliant with federal regulations, compliant with contract compliance, and all of 16 buses are in operation. We also completed a pre-award review required by the federal government for the 20 compressed natural gas coaches manufactured by Gillig, also approved by contract. And they are delivered and all on the property. We are continuing to work with our fleet engineering group in operations, and they are scheduled for the Triscuit garage once the CNG fueling station is up and running, and these buses are ready for operations. They'll replace the old buses that are out there. Is there a question? Moving forward, on pages 11 through 14, please find the results of our continuous auditing program. This is where we develop audit scripts to interrogate system data, completing 100% of the 100% audits of all transactions. Please note the updates where we suspended some of this work due to some lack of staff resources, but I'm happy to say that we are fully staffed and we are catching up, and we will run all the data that we were unable to run in the fourth quarter of last year. We're doing that now, and we'll have a full report at the next Audit Committee meeting. We did prioritize and run our script for the fare collection processes. This represents, the onboard fare collection represents approximately 94% of all fare collections. The system is working as designed. All of the money was deposited and booked to the general ledger. We found no exceptions. In terms of credit card transactions, posted to the revenue accounting records without exception. Moving forward on pages 16 through 23 are 19 projects in progress. They are in various stages. Please note that we had some updates to provide our readers transparency and information status. This includes projects where fieldwork is complete and we're waiting for management responses. This is where we're actively completing projects, or maybe they were suspended due to lack of audit resources. Please note that the first 8 projects in this section, we are complete with field work. We're meeting with management to receive their responses, and we'll report on those projects at the next Audit Committee meeting. Pages 25 through 26, please find the details and results of our special requests and emerging issues. We reserve approximately 15 to 20% of our person hours for these types of projects. In December, we released the results of our Commuter Advantage Sales Managers Commissions audit. These results are provided in the report for your viewing. On page 27 is our efforts to work with external auditors. Please note the state auditors are on site conducting the 2021 federal statement single audit. We're working with management to coordinate efforts. They will present the results of their audit at the end of the second quarter. Also, the Federal Transit Administration completed a triennial review of the Ohio Department of Transportation State Safety Oversight Program. Management received a draft report in January, and I believe a final report was just released yesterday to the General Manager CEO's office. Management is providing some corrective actions and recommendations, and those will be tracked and completed through follow-up. And then finally, the Federal Transit Administration, as I mentioned, conducted a review of the CARES Act and CRSA stimulus grant drawdown process. And again, management received a very positive review. No issues were identified. The remainder of this report is informational. We continue to follow up on all audit recommendations to validate corrective actions are implemented. We participated in a number of steering committees and meetings to learn and share risk management strategies. On page 33 is the training that staff received during the fourth quarter. And then the last page is our staff profiles. As I mentioned before, we are fully staffed now. We welcome the addition of our latest staff auditor, Darren Garlock. He was promoted to the Internal Audit Department from the Intelligent Transportation Systems Business Unit. We're happy to have him. I can answer any questions that the committee or the board has at this time on this report.
Are there any questions from the committee or the full board? Hearing none, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Tony and his staff that they do a lot of good work and not necessarily always the most popular within the organization because no one likes to be audited. So hearing no other business. Oh, no, we have more business.
Thank you, Ms. Moss.
The second part.
Again, on March the 8th, we presented our proposed internal audit risk-based plan for consideration of the committee. The plan is a result of a 5-step process. The process included identification of audit areas, establishment of risk-based audit activities, allocation of audit resources, development of audit schedules, and formulation of the plan. Our professional standards require us to link the audit projects to the authority's business objectives. You'll find the plan on the proposed plan on pages 6 and 7 of the quarterly audit report. Again, we presented this plan in detail to our CEO, General Manager. We shared it with our executive management team. This was provided to the Board of Trustees about 2 weeks ago. So again, if you have some questions or comments with regards to that proposed plan, I can take those questions now.
This is also an ongoing process, so there is time reserved for special projects in there allocated. And Mr. Garofoli is always happy to hear from board members if they have things that they also think should be considered.
If there are no questions, later in the board package at the board meeting today, you'll find Resolution 2022-27, where I will ask for your consideration and approval of this plan.
So is there a motion from the committee to, someone from the committee to bring it to the full board?
So moved, Valerie.
Second?
Is there anyone against moving this to the whole board? Hearing none, it will go for the whole board for consideration at this board, at the following board meeting.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments or questions from the committee or the board that, for the committee to consider? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Valerie.
Second.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, we are concluding our business of the committee.
All right, thank you very much. We will now call to order the RTA Board of Trustees meeting. We have the roll call, please.
All right. Mayor Biassiata.
Here.
Ms. Duarte.
Here.
Mr. Joyce.
Here.
Mayor Kumar. President Lucas.
Present.
Ms. McCall.
Here.
Ms. Moss.
Here.
Ms. Peo. And Mayor Weiss.
Here.
We have 9 board members present.
Certification.
Mr. President, I first advise that notice of this meeting has been posted more than 24 hours in advance of the meeting, that the usual notification has been given the news media and other interested persons, and that all requirements of the Ohio Revised Code and rules and bylaws of this board regarding notice of meeting have been complied with.
Thank you very much. We've had the public oath. Now will we turn to our board meeting minutes for February the 15th, 2022 board meeting. May we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. The approval for the meeting for March 1st, 2022, special board meeting. We have a motion?
So moved, Valerie.
Second? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Thank you very much. We'll now have public comments on agenda items. In person first. Anyone? Help him to the podium, please.
Hello, this is Mr. Rodriguez. I would like to say thank you for buying the new buses. I know for the west side, that was a good purchase because I was waiting for that. And also, I would like to see some more routes added because according to the paratransit driver that I spoke to, some of the riders that they used to serve are no longer being served currently because they can't get rides. Thank you.
All right. Any other public comments from people that are here? Yes, sir.
Are we speaking on just the items that you previously discussed, or is this the public comments for
Yeah, make your comments, that's all right.
that we want to bring forward?
You're here, come on. That'll be fine.
Name's Terry McGrady. I'm a retiree. I've been retired for about 4 years now. I was an executive board member over at Triscuit for approximately, prior to that, maybe about 11, almost 12 years. And what brings me here today, I don't really know exactly where I want to start because I've looked at some of your changes to the agenda that the public only is allowed to speak for 2 minutes. And I just wanted to know, as chairman, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, because it used to be 5 minutes, and I remember before the pandemic, it used to be 5 minutes, and there were some issues that, I was unable to come, and you've reduced it to 2 minutes. So is that a hard 2 minutes, or because some of the things I want to touch on, it's going to be a little bit more than 2 minutes? And I don't know.
We've already gone a few minutes. Go ahead, see where we are.
Okay,
And
all right.
when you get too long, I'll let you know.
Really. Where I want to start at is there are some things that I'm going to go back and touch on some things because I've been to these board meetings and it doesn't seem like we spent a lot of time on those labor relation issues and it's particularly the employee part of it, which there's no advocacy here for, the employees, the bargaining unit employees. I'm specifically speaking about the bargaining unit. And we have some issues that has reared its face up again, and it's about the financial irregularities. And I just want to be real specific and to the point about this one, and I want to go into a little detail about it. There's some payments that was made to some union officials that was questionable, and then I think there were some issues. I don't have all of it. I did a public request, and I haven't got all the information that I need, but there was some double payments to some union officials. And to my knowledge, I've been here, I've been keeping up, these things keep repeating itself at RTA, and it's kind of disturbing to me. What we got here is we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars that was paid to, I think, between 2 or 3 employees. And we're talking about this internal audit, and it's the first I've ever seen this or heard. These things have been put in place to prevent these types of things. I just want to touch real quickly for some of the board members who've been here and some haven't. Mr. Dixon, and no disrespect to him, is just a reference point. He did not pay his healthcare premiums for over 20 years. Over 20 years. And that was a touching point because when you don't pay your premiums over 20 years, you're compromised. As a board chair, you're compromised because someone knew or should have known for 20 years that those premiums were not paid. We'll get past that part real quick. Then we had some issues with some employee fraud that was nationwide. I don't know if some of you guys are aware that's new on the board. Maybe you are. We had some issues with that. And at that time, Mr. Dixon, an internal audit, and I'm sure the director of labor relations should have been aware that he did not pay his taxes neither when this came up. It was the delay between the time that he admitted it and the time that the employees at the time with that healthcare fraud. Now we're back to the same place with here's some other improprieties where they were paid, and now these employees have to pay the authority back. My thing here is we're like at this junction.
Try to wrap it up now.
Here's what I'll do, because the whole thing with it is you're saying wrap it up, but we're talking about a whole lot of things and it comes into play with employees. Because the collective bargaining agreement, I could never put it together, but I can put it together. See, reflection is powerful. Reflection is powerful, Reverend. Reflection, you spoke, reflection is powerful. When you look back, I see why some of the things happen, especially with the bargaining unit employees, because they were never listened to. I represented them. This grievance process that we have that's in the collective bargaining, never is followed, never has been there. Good employees met their families because I did this for 12 years. Did it for 12 years.
All right, now you're taking advantage of it.
And I'm going to let this one employee come here that I've met, and at the time I was a board member, and I want him to briefly, because you only got 2 minutes, he said he may give you, hold on. I want you to just explain, this is only the tip of the iceberg. I want you to explain to him, Matthew, exactly as quickly and as accurate as you can what's going on. And I'll be back next month. I'll see you guys next month. I'll be more prepared next month with. I want to thank you guys for listening to.
Hey, good.
Before you begin, we've gone way past where I'm supposed to be. So put it into 2 minutes. I have to stop you there. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna try very hard. I've never done this before. My name is Matthew Watts. Good morning, everyone. I was an operator at Trisket starting in January 14th, in January 2014 to 2018. There were some issues with the time clock and the punching in for my shift. I was put under crisis suspension for some issues related to the reporting time. As a pre-termination hearing held at the Trisket provided that the information proved that there was errors with my miss record. Mr. Brian Moore terminated me and never addressed the issues pertaining to the miscount and several misses that I was 1 minute late. I went through the grievance process. It fell on deaf ears. I accepted the outcome of the grievance process. I was also told that it would be a good thing, recommended for me to take a DML,
20 seconds, please.
which I didn't want to do. And I didn't want to take the DML. They said, well, take the DML this way that you could get back to work. DML is a hard process to go through. Now that I have a better understanding of RTA policies,
2 minutes up, sir.
I was rehired just recent in August. Well, I applied in August, and then I was rehired November 13th as a new employee. So when I was hired as a new employee, passed all the drug tests, the background check, Robert, who was one of the
Time's up,
workers
please,
in
sir.
the he had RTA, he
Time's up,
had
sir.
stated that Scott Farrell stated that I could not be rehired,
All right,
and I don't know why.
all right, we're getting the essence of this. Thank you very much. And we're gonna have some comments about it in a while. Thank you, sir. All right, is there any other people, any other persons here for public comment? If not, are there any people on the line?
Yes, we have 3 callers on the line.
All right, we're ready.
First caller, you're on the air. Caller, go ahead.
As we don't hear from that caller, I'm asking IT to skip to the next person, and we can come back to caller number 1.
Hello, caller. Go ahead.
Hello, caller, can you hear us?
Go to the next one.
Hello, caller. Chris Martin, please go ahead.
We're not getting any of the calls. Teresa?
I believe they're working the system back there, so I cannot see the callers from here, but the call-in number is live.
Hello, caller. Please go ahead.
If approved by the board, I would suggest that we can come back to those callers because we do have a secondary public comment section after the resolutions, if that's all right.
That'll be fine with me. All right, moving ahead. Any of the committee chairpersons have a report? Anybody have a report?
Chair, excuse me. No report, but I do have an announcement for the ad hoc tech committee meeting will be April 21st here in this room at 5 o'clock.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? We've heard these reports. All right, we'll go down to 14. Is that correct with everyone? Introduction of new employees and announcement of promotions. And we will now hear from the transit police staff that's here. I know you're here.
We were going to start out with the new hires and human resources. We'll move forward with that, and then we'll hear from the command staff as promotions. Scott Ferraro will be going over our new hires for our Deputy General Manager, George Fields, who's on vacation.
Good morning, President Reverend Lucas, Ms. Birdsong, members of the board. I am Scott Ferraro. I'm the Senior Director of Labor and Employee Relations and Compliance, and it's my privilege to announce the new hires and promotions for March of 2022. So let's start with welcoming the following employees: Operator Malik Bacon, Hostler Lauren Bell, Hostler Reginald Black, Operator Ashley Burks, Operator Cameron Clips Shelton, Operator Erica Curry, Operator Gary Eccles, Hostler Eric Farrell, Transit Police Officer Desti Fred DeVell, Transit Police Officer Jacob Gorby, Operator Stanford Hicks, Transit Police Officer Cesar Irizarry III, Operator Tanisha Jones, Operator Andre Kincaid, Operator Toby Lasofsky, Operator Sowen Lockridge, Operator Valerie McDowell, Operator Isaiah Mitchell. Continuing the new hires, Operator Samari Munford, Hostler Angela Murphy, Operator Natasha Price, Operator Hector Roman, Operator Lindsay Ross, Operator Sarah Smith, Laborer Richard Erminsky, Operator Raymond Valentine, and Hostler Ashley Wagner. And the final new hire is Baswan Wagner, Operator, and Operator Lakita Watson. So now let's congratulate our promotions for March of 2022. District Business Analyst Sharon Daniels, Staff Auditor Darren Garlock, Supervisor Tower Control Samantha Harper, Contract Administrator Margaret Sweddle, Lead Maintenance Planner John Teal, and Lead Maintenance Planner James Waken. At this point, I'd like to turn over the microphone to Chief Jones, who will go through the promotions of her command staff.
Let's give that group a cheer. Welcome.
see you, yeah.
How's my favorite chief today?
I am well. How are you, President?
Thank you.
Good morning. Morning. President Lucas, board members, Ms. Birdsong, it is with immense pride that I introduce to you the board, our colleagues, and the public, our newly appointed Transit Police Command Staff. Deputy Chief Michael Gettings, raise your hand, please, for those of you who do not know him. He is the number 2, my number 2, and I'm proud to have him as Deputy Chief. Commander of Patrol Operations, Robert Flackbart. Commander of Administrative Operations, Orlando Hudson. Commander of Specialized Units, Ronald Darden. Before you stands a group of law enforcement officers who, if you include me in this group, has a combined total of more than 125 years of law enforcement experience. Our number 1 priority will continue to be serving our communities with professionalism, respect, and excellence. We are planning a swearing-in ceremony that will also include new lieutenants and new sergeants. Family and friends will be invited, and that will be Thursday, May 19th, which is during Police Memorial Week. Does anybody have any questions?
Please remind us of that day we want to be present.
Will do.
19th, yeah.
Absolutely.
No questions, but if I may, I'll wait until the board has their questions and I'll make my comment. Go ahead.
Where is the location of the swearing in?
It will be held here
Here?
in the
At what
boardroom,
time?
yes.
At what time?
I believe at 10 o'clock, but I'll get the exact times and dates to you guys. I'll
Thank you.
remind you.
Anybody else? Ms. Birdsong.
I just wanted to say congratulations. Congratulations, of course, to the chief. You have a great team. This is
I do.
Truly the A team. You can see it in your faces,
I do.
even beyond the mask. The jobs that you do is not easy. It is not simple, and it is not without great compassion. I appreciate you. Our team appreciates you. I think that we have seen, especially in light of recent events, and also societal ills and kind of emerging from this pandemic as we're still in the middle of. It is truly an honor to have such a dedicated and talented team. The last few years have been quite tumultuous for the city, as well as the nation, and dare I say the globe. So with RTA, it's a unicorn of sorts to be able to have a team like yours. On a personal note, I have been in agencies that does not have a transit police force and those that do. And it's a vast difference in being able to really, truly connect with our regional partners and also our customers to understand that we're human and people make mistakes even aboard our system. So being able to navigate that and then also be creative amidst all of the day-to-day chaos, I applaud you for your efforts and I appreciate you being with us. Congratulations.
Thank you.
May I also add my congratulations on behalf of the board. We've had a couple of incidents recently, and whenever incidents happen, there's a feedback, and as president, that's when my phone lights up no matter what hour it is. And recently, there were a couple incidents, but there were some statements made from some of the patrons that were riding the bus at the time. They commented on the demeanor and the wonderful way that the transit police handled the situation. That makes you feel good that we're doing our job. And of course, I'm a little partial to Commander Hudson because he and I are about the same size. But for the rest of you, we welcome you and we thank you very much, all of you. And I look forward to being with you on the 19th.
Thank you very much.
Chief.
Thank you.
Give them a hand. All right. Now, we have some resolutions. By the way, did the telephone call ever come through?
We can try again if you want to go back.
If not, I want to try again. I know,
In the back, Sheila,
I
can we?
saw Dr. Cable went back there, you know, he's a magician with things like this. So I didn't know.
Can you hear me clearly?
Okay, we can hear you now. We can hear you now, Mr. Stewart.
Okay. So I'm calling to your attention again that the adjustment that you made to the number 50 has now extended service to a longer period of time than it would have been if you had left 48A in place. The number 50 bus, where it starts at 177 South Miles, takes 8 minutes longer to get to its endpoint heading north to 93rd, and I think that's Chester, than the 48A does. In addition to that, it requires a longer period of transfer to the number 15, number 14, all the ratchets, that mean the blue, green, and red. And if the number 50 started at its furthest northern point at Marymount Hospital, it would get to its endpoint at a sooner period, which would be 9 minutes sooner than what it does now, and it would allow more people to have transportation between hospitals, Marymount Hospital, University Hospital, and the Cleveland Clinic. You refuse up to this point to acknowledge this as being actual information that I just conveyed to you, and you've also refused to acknowledge that it would be a more efficient service overall if the number 50 and the number 48 were both hourly buses, and I'm referencing the number 48 starts at Marymount because it was shared 30 minutes service from Marymount East 131st Mile, and then that same 48 would share the traditional 30-minute service from 131st and Miles to its endpoint of 93rd, and I think Chester with the 48A if you put it back in service. These should be hourly buses. The number 15A, which has been strongly suggested to you repeatedly, and you did tell a group of people on July 1st, Toya Minor, Joe Freilich, that you would take a good look at it, and you did not. The number 15A was put in service would give more people ability to use public transportation and an efficient route with all the retail spots that
10 seconds, sir.
all the board of trustees that you should have. It would touch more schools, which you should have, and it would also touch more taxpayer funding in the public library, which you should have. You should have this, every single one of you, the board of trustees.
Time's up, please.
All right, thank you very much. If I recall, we've been waiting on a meeting with your council and was going to set up a meeting, and we have not heard back. Is that correct?
You had a meeting on July 1st.
No, there was a follow-up.
At that meeting, everybody in the room told you that it wanted what I'm suggesting to you now, which is a copy that you all have with a couple of addendums put on it, because I added some other stops, not stops, but places where it would be stopping if you actually would look at it. There doesn't need to be another follow-up meeting. The councilman said he wants this. The people at the meeting said they want this. And the information that you conveyed back to me from somebody named Sophia Stern saying that the number 50 is not lower than the 48A is false. And that's false by your own data and anybody else that can do basic addition and subtraction.
All right, thank you so very much. All right, who's the next call?
Caller, go ahead.
Hello?
Caller, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Carlita Gardner with Ward 1. And I am just reiterating what Eric said. These buses or the new gen have disrupted a lot of things. You have extended the 14, which is the 14A, the 41A, and they have disrupted the service altogether. You're now sitting with the interior of the city where the 15A and the 48A hit. Those customers are walking extra distances to get to these stops. and you're putting them in harm's way. It's still the same issue that is not being addressed. And from the city club meeting on the 25th? You're still not listening. You're not listening to the people that are riding these buses. You're just ignoring them. The public is being ignored. And that shouldn't be so, because they are the ones that are actually riding the bus. Now, what Eric sent you should be addressed. That's taking longer, because I followed the 14 route from where it started downtown all the way up. So you took the 14, took it out of Granada and Ellicott, that way where the 15 actually ran. So it's taking longer for those 14 to reach the 15 people that were actually on those lines. You're taking the 48 out of the way, which is taking them longer to get to their patrons as well. So the community is not being addressed. You're not listening. You're listening to yourself.
10 seconds.
And that needs to stop.
All right, thank you very much.
That's all I have to say.
All right, next. Is there another one?
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Trustees, this is Chris Martin, City of Cleveland. You must demand transparency from this agency you govern. Today, the agency operates within opaque shadows. Let me provide some examples. I'm glad to see the agency finally broadcasting its meetings on YouTube and that it has brought back the email comment form. All it took was months of haranguing you about it. Mind you, web-submitted comments must be forwarded to you trustees, not just staff as it's listed on the agenda. And please note, you are still calling these meetings to order at 9 a.m. when most people can't attend. It took weeks of haranguing and getting the press involved to get this agency to give an actual answer as to why trolleys are running on non-trolley routes. And then, in its press release, the agency lied, claiming trolleys were running only on 4 non-trolley routes when that is plainly not true, as I know when I rode a number 45 trolley home just last week. Earlier this month, the agency closed the response time for its rail car replacement RFP, yet refuses to say how many responses it received, let alone any details of those responses. When I previously questioned this agency's decision not to install mask dispensers on board buses and trains, the ludicrous answer that RTA just runs too many buses for it to be feasible was given. Please note, much larger agencies like New York City's MTA did install mask dispensers on board buses. Instead, this agency explains that the
10 seconds, sir.
operators are given masks to distribute. This is a lie. It is not true. Last week, you held a hearing on body cam footage retention policy, and the only quote-unquote
Time's up, please.
expert you heard from was one of your own cops. That's a conflict of interest and demonstrates whose opinions you value and whose opinions you do not. You must proactively reach out to civil rights organizations
That's time.
for their input.
All right, any more?
No,
If I
that was
may-
the last caller.
I think that's the last. President Lucas, if I may address very quickly. Okay, I'll be very quick. First, we appreciate all of the public comments that have come through. Some of these are regarding personnel issues, which we can definitely follow up on through past employees. And we'll also be bringing details of our collective bargaining agreement through a resolution, and I'll provide more detail on that. That did pass successfully, and we'll give more detail. There is always room to improve. I do want to mention that we are very transparent with our leadership of the city through council as well to make sure that we have communicated all of the effects and are taking feedback for those route changes through Next Gen. Of course, we cannot please everyone, but we will continue to refine the process. As far as the transparency, I did want to mention we did issue a media statement regarding the trolleys. Those are being run as would any other vehicles to make sure that we can capitalize on any efficiency while we await the new arrival of our new fleet. As was mentioned by our chair, we do have one of those vehicles for show for those individuals here who would like to see some of the new benefits of the new fleet that we have just passed inspection within the last days. Of course, as mentioned, there are a lot of lags due to pandemic and other procurement materials and purchasing, but we are right on schedule as far as vehicle replacement and have, like I mentioned, inducted over 10, nearly 20 into our new fleet, which has also been passed by our auditing process. Regarding rail car, I do want to reiterate, there are affidavits in place. There are procurement rules in place which prohibit us from detailing information to the public and or media until that process is completed. We will provide that update as soon as we can as that's continuing, and it is according to schedule and on time. We also will continue and will always provide masks to anyone who need them aboard our service. And if we run into issues with PPE regarding running out, please let us know and we'll continue to mask up and provide those PPE to our operators to ensure the safety of all passengers. Thank you so much.
All right. We have our resolutions. 2022-24, Teresa.
Authorizing contract number 2021-184 with Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP for Project 19.12 Wood Hill Garage Sprinkler System expansion as specified and as required in an amount not to exceed $124,500, RTA Capital Fund, Engineering and Project Development Department budget.
We have a motion.
So move.
Second.
Second, Valerie.
All right. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
No?
I have a question. Sorry. My question is, and the staff knows what my question is going to be, there is only one bidder, and I think that it exceeded the estimate. I have my normal budget question about, the difference in the funding. And is there a reason for concern that we only got one responsive bidder, that we're actually getting the best price we can?
Who's going to answer that? Chipper?
Yeah.
Go
Yes.
right ahead, Mike.
Yeah, this is Mike Shipper, Board Member Moss. Yes, we're always concerned when we only have one bidder. I think what this reflects is something that we're going to be seeing probably throughout the remainder of 2022, as as we look at the inflation situation and supply chain situation on our contracts. Through the first half of the state fiscal year, the Ohio Department of Transportation has seen about an 8% rise in, like goods, and we are starting to see that in our projects. So that's one of the things as we are going through our capital improvement budgeting process, that we may be bumping up some of these estimates. I think when we get one bid that's just under the 10%, we probably had 2 or 3 other vendors that were probably decided not to pursue it because they didn't want to get under the 10% rule that we have. So for the new board members, if we receive a bid that exceeds our estimate, which is a published estimate, by 10%, that is considered a non-responsive bid, and we cannot accept those bids. So the contractors that know that, they're kind of hoping that nobody bids, and then we'll rebid it at a higher estimate and not expose their prices. But We do have one vendor that did come under that. We've used this vendor before. They're familiar with our site, and we're comfortable that they can do the work.
Ms. Moss, thank you, Mike. This is Melinda, Director of Procurement. I did want to let you know, too, that this is the second bid. We did put this out before in the fall. This is a rebid, and we didn't receive we didn't receive any responsive bids. And so this was the second time we put this out, and we were fortunate enough to get one responsive bid.
All right. All right, everybody okay now? We'll vote again. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, anyone against? Very good, thank you very much. Teresa, 2022-25.
Authorizing the general manager to enter into a lease agreement with PNC Bank National Association for property at the Puritas West 150th Street Rapid Transit Station located at 4200 West 150th Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44135, for a renewal term of 2 years with options for 2 renewal terms for 1 year each.
Is there any discussion? This has all been through committee.
Move adoption, Mallory.
Any discussion? All right, may I have a motion?
Sorry, who seconded? Chief McCall moved, who seconded?
Move second.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, anyone opposed? Thank you very much. 2022-26.
All right. Authorizing a lease agreement with Two Birds Shuttle and Detail LLC for property at the Puritas West 150th Street Rapid Transit Station located at 4200 West 150th Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44135, for a renewal term of 2 years at $12,000 per year.
All right, any discussion? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. 2022-27.
Approving the 2022 Internal Audit Plan.
All right, this is Mr. Garapoli's presentation today. Any discussion? We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Thank you very much. 2022-28.
Approving a new 3-year collective bargaining agreement covering conditions of employment with Local 268 of the Amalgamated Transit Union.
All right, did you want to have any more comments on that?
Yes, if I could make a quick comment before the board goes to vote. I just want to reiterate, in light of some of the comments that were made this morning, and also just to be able to recap on the effort. Collective bargaining agreements is never an easy process. It's always something that requires a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication, and a lot of honesty and transparency about what the issues are in daily operations. I wanted to be able to just underscore this ask of the board to consider approval, as we've made some significant strides, I think, as an agency over the last few years, to be able to shore up some of the gaps in communication between administrative staff and management regarding union employees. So we do not take this lightly. We consider every CBA, collective bargaining agreement, important. We cannot get everything done in one fell swoop. However, I do believe that this is a very competitive agreement, especially when you compare it with others across the country. In light of folks putting their life on the line every day through a pandemic, I do appreciate those union employees, past and present, and I do believe that this is a collective bargaining agreement that's reflective of that relationship. As I am advised, and Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this did pass with the ATU by a margin of 761 yes, 54 no. That's a huge feat to be able to have it adopted at that level. Yes, Scott is in the back.
That's correct.
Where are you?
Raise your hand in the back there. He is our labor representative for the RTA and handles most personnel, if not all, with the union. So again, 761 yes, 54 no. Again, that's a huge margin. So wanted to make sure you understood that as well.
Did you want to add anything to that, Mr. Scott?
No, I just appreciate the work with both my negotiating committee as well as the union's negotiating committee. We went through a little more of a collaborative process than we've used in the past, so I think it was productive for both sides.
Thank you very much. Anything from the board?
I have a question, and I think that I have heard, but when I'm looking through the actual resolution, I don't really see what it was. Like, what are we agreeing to?
Is it
And if
possible
we
just
could
to
do a
highlight some of
highlight.
the terms?
Pardon?
Yeah, we can definitely highlight if that's the request of the board. We did go through this previously in a executive session. I'm not certain if Ms. Moss, you were in attendance for that or not, but we did go through the details. We can always recap it for this purposes so everybody's refreshed, if that would help. Scott, why don't you approach?
Do you need that?
Well, I guess I think we should say publicly what we're agreeing to so that the public knows we're voting on something, and I don't think that it's ever been presented in public.
We can do that, that's no
Before you were in
problem.
negotiations, that's why we didn't do it in public, but now, and we don't need to know every detail, but I think that it should be.
Here you go. Go ahead.
Summarize the highlights for us, Scott. Thank
Okay,
you.
again, good morning. So in the contract, there will be a 4% increase over the next 3 years of the contract. The contract term will run from August 1st of 2021 through July 31st of 2022. That 4% will be divided up into 2% every 6 months over that term. There will be a hazard COVID incentive payment that will be made of a total of $3,500 this year. It'll be broken up into 2 payments, $2,500 in June and another $1,000 in December. We've increased the starting wage rate for the operators and paratransit operators. For the operator side, it'll increase to 65% of the top operator pay rate, which will bring them up to about $20 so that we can be competitive in our hiring. We've added the Juneteenth holiday to the contract. There's been a number of issues in the contract that haven't been addressed in a number of contracts. So we've increased the value of the short-term disability program. We've added some days to bereavement. Grandparents will now, for the bereavement of a grandparent is now 3 days, 1 day for grandchildren. We've increased night premium, instructing pay, tool allowance, fill-in, and safety shoe allowances. We've also included a safety shoe allowance for our part-time employees that need to wear safety shoes but hadn't received a shoe allowance in the past. We have a number of other issues that we're going to be addressing with the union. We're looking at creating an AM and PM board so that our extra board, where we need to have operators filling in, have a better understanding of what their schedules are going to be moving forward into the future, and they could plan their lives accordingly around their work. We'll be working on that, hopefully to get that resolved by fall of this year. And with our healthcare benefits, we've increased the annual dental allowance maximum to $2,000 from the $1,000 that it was. And we're incorporating a prescription rebate plan that will address specialty drugs, which are very expensive. They're anywhere from thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. So employees will be able to get those prescriptions at a $0 copay, but will allow the RTA to take advantage of manufacturing rebates that range anywhere from thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. Those are pretty much the highlights for the
I
contract.
appreciate the highlight and that so the public knows what we're voting on. Thank you.
Mr. President. Scott's up here.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just again to reiterate what our general manager said, Scott, to get to that point where the bargaining agreement overwhelmingly voted on this agreement, shows a lot of collaboration, shows a lot of work on our team, and just congratulations to everybody to, keep our employees happy and keep the agency moving forward. But 761 to 54 says a mouthful, so good work.
Yeah. And just one other thing, worked with Raj Gautam and the finance group really well through this whole process. So we are sustainable with these added values to the contract moving forward. So.
All right, thank you, Scott.
Mr. President?
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just one point of clarification. I just want to confirm something. The term of the contract is August 21st, 2021 through July 31st, 2024, or I thought you said?
August 1st of 2021. It expired July 31st of 2021, so it rolls back to August 1st of 2021 and will go to July 31st of 2024.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say 2022. I just wanted to make sure it was 2024.
If I did, I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Mayor?
I have a question and a clarification. So it's 2% pay raise every 6 months, you mentioned?
Correct.
So basically, it's 4% annual for each of the 3 years of the contract, 4, 4, 4.
Correct.
Okay. And with the contract being effective August 2021, will the first 2% be retroactive to August 2021?
No, the first increase was due in the first full pay of February of 2022, so it will be retro back to that date.
And do we, I don't need the exact amount, but we've already passed the budget for 2022. Forgive me, I'm the first meeting. Okay, and the 4% for 2022, is it encompassed in the budget, or are we going to have to make adjustments going forward?
I'll ask Raj to be able to weigh in on that one, but we have it calculated for that. So Raj?
Yeah, just to confirm what Ms. Birdsong just said, that was incorporated into the budget in the early process, which was approved by the board in December 2021.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right. Anyone else have any questions while Scott's here? All right. Thank you so much. All right. We're ready to vote?
I think we need a motion and a second.
All right. May I have a motion?
I move to approve this measure.
Second?
Second, Karen.
All right. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Good. Thank you very much. We'll now hear from our Secretary Treasurer. How are you, my Secretary?
I am doing extremely well, Reverend Lucas. Good morning. Good morning to the board members, management team. Included in the board package on a monthly basis, we include a lot of financial data. As has been our tradition, we'll just hit the highlights on the major economic conditions and the indicators, and the two general fund revenue sources that drive the budget. Economic conditions, as we see on this slide, the source of this data comes from Peterson Institute of International Economics, USAFacts.org, and Bureau of Labor Statistics. Unemployment rates by month for Cuyahoga County and Ohio as compared to the U.S. rates. The U.S. unemployment rate for January 2022 was at 4%. The Ohio unemployment rate fell from 4.5% in December 2021 to 4.3% in January 22. The Cuyahoga County, unemployment rose from 4.1% in December 21 to 6.1% in January 22. Goods producing industries, transportation, services, utilities, hospitality, construction, and manufacturing all increased compared to the previous month. As far as the ridership, what we see on this slide is now 4 calendar years of data, and we wanted to retain 2019 as part of this information package, so we continue to see the impact of what impact the COVID and the pandemic has had on the ridership. So you've got, for February 2022, ridership was up 28.2% when you compare it to February of 2021. In February of 22, we did have the All-Star Weekend that is factored into the increase in the ridership during that period. On a year-to-date basis, ridership is 11.6% above 2021 levels. Passenger fares for February amounted to $2.7 million. It's 106.5% higher than the same month last year. That is not necessarily a reflection of anything else, but a timing difference of payments that we received as a result of our relationships and partnerships with various educational institutions that we have UPass agreements with. The fare revenue was 99.6% higher than budget. On a year-to-date basis, passenger fares are 57.2% higher than the same period in 2021. As it has been the case throughout the pandemic, the sales tax has remained extremely strong for us. For the newer board members and for the benefit of those listening online, sales tax represents the largest component of operating revenue that supports the operations. March 2022 receipts, which are based on December 2021 activity with the 3-month lag and when the economic activity actually transpires, when the cash is collected and remitted to RTA. The sales tax receipts were 15.3% higher than March 2021 and 13% higher than budget. 16 of the 23 categories that make up the sales tax base were positive in March. The largest increases were in motor vehicles and watercraft, which were 37% higher. Online sales, 33%, and regular and statewide sales, 18.6%. These are numbers, once again, when we compare March 2022 to March 2021. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions to Secretary Treasurer? Mayor Weiss.
Just any thoughts on the spike in the Cuyahoga County unemployment?
Historically, Cuyahoga County has lagged the unemployment rates in when you compare it to the state of Ohio as well as to the federal. That's something that we're going to have to continue looking out for, but that falls in between the reasonable expectations that we've experienced over the last several years.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions to Secretary Treasurer? If not, we receive your report, always with commendation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now hearing from our General Manager.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I will try to be brief in light of the time. Just wanted to highlight a few things in my report for this month. First, we'll start out by highlighting a little bit about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. As some of you may know, we had board representation through Ms. McCall, as well as staff representation through Ms. Walker-Minor at the recent APTA, American Public Transportation Association, legislative forum in Washington, D.C. The APTA Racial Equity Commitment Program was discussed at that conference as a means to be able to really elevate the core principles, as you see on the slide in front of you, regarding racial equity in public transportation. I'm proud to say that RTA is one of the 30 transit authorities that have recently signed on. We will be participating in a 2-year pilot program. And again, this program is designed to assist us, as we are APTA member, with a tangible roadmap, as they call it, to be able to really integrate racial equity and DEI into our business practices. So the pilot is set to begin in May. We're excited about this, and we'll come back to you with additional input and feedback regarding our participation. At this point, Ms. McCall, if you had any comments, I would ask for them now. Natoya Walker-Minor did have a family emergency and had to leave the room, so I can defer to you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was good to see that we were one of the 30 transit agencies that had already signed on to this. This was a highlight of the Legislative Conference of APTA, which is one of our largest conferences. What was interesting was that a lot of the business members of APTA had not signed on to this, which was interesting because As we talk about this, it's not just the transit agencies, it's our business agencies as well. So it was really, the focal point was to get the business agencies to sign up. And so when I reached out to our GM and CEO and asked, had RTA signed up, and she assured me that we had. And it was highlighted that GCRTA is one of the leaders of this. In fact, one of the comments that our current chair of AFTA asked me to bring back was to let us know, Mr. Chair, that they'd like our CEO, GM, to be more active in AFTA. Because GCRTA, as we already know, is seen as a leader in the transit industry across the country. And so when we're there, when we're active, when we're participating on that national level, at the nation's leader of public transportation, it says a lot about our agency. And so it was good to see that we were at the table, signed on as one of the top agencies in this. So thank you.
Thank you, Member McCall. Appreciate that. I will weave it into the calendar. Moving on to some of the recent events that we had here on site, actually in this boardroom. You may see at your dais there, you see a packet. It looks like this. It's the blue, red, and white RTA 101 document. This was a brainchild of our marketing and legislative affairs team. We actually had on March 24th kind of a meet and greet, RTA 101 is what we called it, where we really had bus stops. We fashioned the room and moved around the furniture so that each project was a bus stop. And we invited members of local council, different mayors in different cities within the greater Cleveland area, as well as staff from the mayor's office through the city of Cleveland, were in attendance to really understand what's on our docket. What are some of the capital projects we have going on? What is our financial outlook? What's happening with rail cars? Some of the pilot projects and capital projects we have on deck. And then, of course, our business development, DBE, and ADA services were some of the highlights. We also had a robust discussion about fare collection replacement as well. So this was really nice. We had that kind of personal time. People showed up. I'm proud to say that a lot of folks stayed 30 to 60 minutes beyond their original scheduled time. They were really fired up to be able to talk to the subject matter experts on these particular items, and I think garnered a lot of additional support for RTA for future endeavors and pilot programs. So kudos to the team. I have received a couple of requests to have us repeat this in different forums, as well as have certain SMEs or subject matter experts from our team to be able to visit the different cities and council chambers so that we can explain our projects en masse. So we're really excited about this, and I think this is something we'll continue. Also wanted to give a quick update on the $4 million grant that we were awarded. This is the US DOT, so the Department of Transportation, and the FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, awarded through their bus and bus facilities grants, totaling upwards of $30 million to transit authorities across Ohio. We were the recipient of $4 million, which will be utilized to replace the 200,000 square foot Hayden District roof. Hayden is one of our bus garages. It's one of our workhorses, if I can say that respectfully, in East Cleveland. Without this funding, I want to make sure that we underscore this. We would not be able to proceed with this project this year. We would be another year behind schedule in that capital program, and we really appreciate the support of our legislative body, particularly U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown, to be able to push through and advocate for public transit in Greater Cleveland. So this goes to show that the, not lobbying, but advocacy, we're changing the word, of being able to go out and talk with our legislators and have those kind of events I had previously highlighted, prove dividends in support. And a result of this is a $4 million grant that enables us to improve the work life of our employees at Hayden Garage. So we appreciate that, and we wanted to make sure we brought that to your attention today. Also, as I mentioned, and our chair mentioned as well, we have 40-foot new Gillig CNG transit vehicles that have just come online. We have some real snazzy pictures for you here, and we also have a new vehicle that's out on West 6th Street right in front of the main office building. A lot of these vehicles are coming online. 20 buses were delivered. It did go through our compliance and audit process as well, and we plan to be able to phase these into revenue service over the next 30 days. Some of the features of these are actually very jazzy, if I can say that. Of course, CNG, we have a passenger information system through alerts and cameras. We have telematics, which is real-time maintenance. We also have a pretty expensive security camera system that's pretty standard throughout the industry that gives 360-degree views. Also plastic seating, which lends to the safety and health and wellness of and hygiene of our customers. And vented tip-in windows. They're at the top, so that's a safety feature as well to increase the circulation throughout our vehicles. We're excited about them. A couple photos just to whet your appetite for those vehicles. And now I believe I'd like to be able to give a little bit of an insight into our annual report. You may have seen these orange booklets at your dais as well. This is our efforts to be able to go into the e-version of our annual report. We wanted to be able to make it eye-catching and also have people interested in what we're doing on a daily basis. Turned out pretty well. It was a team effort by the marketing division, and I believe we're going to play the clip if you guys are ready.
I'll go back to the, okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm India Birdsong, CEO and General Manager of the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. Being together is a powerful thing, with friends and family, with colleagues, with the community. And wherever you're going to be together, RTA is your partner in getting you there. For our community, we've devoted ourselves to embodying our mission and keeping our vision in focus.
Our mission of connecting a community by providing safe and creative transportation options guide us to better serve Greater Cleveland with mobility as an asset and a service.
For our employees, we put time and attention into our structure to better support you with career development.
For our passengers, we've invested in ways to make every trip more efficient and more comfortable, adding new vehicles, upgrading our stations, and upholding the highest possible safety standards.
Thanks to your input, we've reimagined the rider experience with Next Gen RTA, adding more routes and more frequent service to ensure everyone can ride along.
And for riders of the future, we are mapping out long-term plans so you can always rely on us.
Our epic journey to better days has just begun, and we've saved you a seat. So let's go together. So we hope that met our standards for creativity for this quarter. It's something that we're really excited about, just being able to start to think about different ways to entice people to find out what we're doing at RTA. So I will take any questions at this time. Otherwise, I'll defer it back to our chair.
Questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out that I think that the RTA 101 booklet is a very nice touch. I think it's something that, just given that we have so many new board members and more coming shortly, I think it would be helpful to include in here some stats that we need to know as board members on the national level for when board members go to APTA. It's important that we know what our system size is, how many buses we have versus trains, and our overall budget. So I think some of that stuff should be added to this because I think it's important for the public to know that as well as our team. I do, though, want to just point out that I think there was a missed opportunity because I don't think the board was invited to the March 24th event, and I'm not sure, maybe I just missed it. And the reason why I want to point that out is we do have an external stakeholders committee, and I think that would have been a great opportunity, one, to engage at least the committee members, and two, to engage the board. If we're inviting legislators and people and we're talking about RTA, that would have been a good opportunity, especially with so many new board members. So I just want to put a plug back in there that I think as of today, I still chair the external affairs committees. I know we're going to be changing committees soon, but I just want to put a plug back to remind us that those points where we can connect the board back to those kind of events, please let's continue to do that because I think that would have been a good opportunity to have the board engaged. But I do like the 101 booklet. I think it was great. And then I hope we use the video and promote it a little more and get it out there on social. It's a good marketing piece as well. Thank you.
All right. Yes, Liz?
Yes, thank you again for the presentation. And is this available in any other languages? Is it just English only?
Languages, was that the question?
Yes, languages.
I believe right now it's in English because we would just produce it for that event, but we can look at being able to switch that over and then also think about how we can distribute it out. Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, thank you very much, General Manager.
Thank you.
Doing a good job. You've already heard my report as we moved along. Are there any old business? Any old business? Valerie?
Mr. Chair, I do think there's one piece of old business that I want to bring up, and it came up in public comments today. I want to bring it up under old business. It's the Ward 1 issue that we keep hearing about. And I know we heard about it under public comments about the 50, the 48A, and we keep hearing about it, and I just don't want to go past it as a board member sitting here because they're talking to the board. I would like us to have some type of final resolution by the April 26th board meeting. There seems to be, we're asking the public, we went out with this next gen and we asked the public to give us comment. And those particular residents in Ward 1 have been very professional, articulate, and consistent in their feedback to us, timing the routes, giving us suggestions, but letting us know on more than one occasion that there is still a hiccup there. And I know along the way we've made some changes in other routes, but what I keep hearing is a consistency around those particular routes. I heard a consistency today as it relates to Marymount Hospital, and knowing the area, there seems to be something there where they cited that the disconnect is with connecting routes. What I can't get my hands around, I can't discern when they're talking to us here if there's really a disconnect. Is it really impacting other routes? Is there a extension of the routes based on next gen? And so I'd like us to once and for all really do a deeper dive into their issue. If it's a matter of we're waiting to hear from the councilman, then we should take the initiative to reach out to Councilman Jones and have some type of conversation to put this to bed once and for all, because this is going on 6 months almost, give or take, of them coming to this board every month. And quite honestly, I think we should take that extra mile, go that extra step to resolve their issues, even if we got to go out there and ride the bus ourselves with them to come to some resolution on this issue. So I'm asking to have a date certain resolution on the Ward 1 matter by the board meeting, whether it's the councilman coming here on April 26th, the residents coming here on April 26th, so that we know once and for all that matter's been concluded.
Thank you very much, General Manager.
Yeah. So, Member McCall, I appreciate your comments on that, and we'll definitely take that back and move forward on additional action. I would like to also advise that we have, to my knowledge, concluded or put a pin in that. However, we apparently have not pleased some of the residents. So we can provide, I think what might be appropriate, an additional deep dive to you as well as the External Affairs Committee Chair, so that you understand what we've done to date and the communications that have occurred. We absolutely understand that community feedback is important, and we don't want any of our residents or riders to feel that they're going unheard, and I understand your comments on that as well. If I can ask, if you don't mind, if Doc, if you have any additional comments regarding the follow-up with the residents, but absolutely we will follow up with you, Member McCall, and the residents.
Yes, and if I can, Mr. Chair, not to prolong today's meeting, you don't have to do a deeper dive with me per se. I just want to have it resolved once and for all at this board level as an agenda item that we can say, we took another step, because they keep bringing it back to us as board members. And so I don't want it to look like we as the board are just listening to it in public comment and then we're not doing anything. And I can't discern as a board member what's being done other than me going out there myself and writing it. And I don't think you want us to do that, because that's not our job at this level, right? And so I have to trust the process, but I keep hearing from them at this board level meeting, and I knowing that route, knowing that area, knowing the bus, my spidey senses are telling me that they know enough about that there is still a disconnect and we're missing something that I think can be resolved if we just maybe put one more extra step to it. I'm confident that we can come to a resolution that you guys can finally report out on that lets us get that off the public comment
That will be
agenda.
done, that will be done. All right, any other old business? Any new business? New business. All right, we go back now to public comments. Public comments? Any more public comments? Come right on up, my brother.
Terry McGrady, retiree. I just want to add to, I don't know, I think the last time before the pandemic, the issue of the comment section, what your length was, the maximum was 5 minutes, and I'm just wondering, is that something that you have to wait to, if you were to consider reassessing that? Because 2 minutes, I mean, what can you actually tell this board in 2 minutes? I mean, it's not like, you come here and some of these faces I've seen, 2 minutes, I mean, I can't get anything across to you in 2 minutes. I mean, it was at 5 per person. So, I mean, 2 minutes it sounds like, you would go from 5 to 2, that's suppression to me. I mean, that's how I would look at it, Chair. And I'm just saying, like today, I wasn't able to finish my whole conversation that I wanted to hold with this board, and it is I ain't gonna say a right, but a privilege to come here, and I just want to be heard. And I think that 2 minutes, when you changed it, because I was here at the last board meeting prior to the pandemic, and that was when it was put on the agenda for a change, and I'm just wondering, why would you go from 5 minutes to 2 minutes? That just doesn't make, and if I take the time to come down here to talk to you, you're only gonna give me 2 minutes to express something I have to talk to this board about?
All right, we'll take that under advisement.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I just point of clarification? Just because, and I'm going by memory, but I think it's wrong. I know exactly what you're talking about. I believe our public comment before used to be 3 minutes. And if I'm not mistaken, it was 3 minutes and it was at the beginning only. And we had a lot of conversations around, for the very reason, because it used to seem like it was short. And I think what we ended up doing, we added a minute. So what seems like we cut it off, we went from 3 minutes at the beginning only, and we made it 2 minutes at the beginning, and then we added 2 minutes at the end. So we actually added a minute to it. It was never 5 minutes. It was 3 minutes, but then we split it. And so, Mr. Chair, I just want to point that out. That's the problem of having served for so long. But to the point that Mr. Chair mentioned, we can revisit it when we do our retreat again this year. But I just wanted to point that out because I know exactly what you're talking about. It did seem like it was longer because it was 3 minutes initially, but it was only in the one spot. We split it and we added a minute to it.
Okay, okay. But my whole thing is, it seems like, and when I come here, it seems like everything is we're on a hurry up rush. Time, everything is a time constraint. This is a board meeting. It's once a month. This is the public's chance, or anybody who wants to hold comments to come to speak. So I don't think with all this, we got to hurry up. Everybody's apologizing for, hey, I don't want to take up this time. This is what we're here for. This is what we're supposed to do. This is how it's been formulated. So why? I mean, it just seems like everybody's in a rush to get to their next appointment. But that's it. Thanks.
All right. Any other public comments? Come right on.
Good morning. Oh, sorry. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, originally I wanted to do the first thing is to welcome our mayors from 7th Hill to join the board. However, today we have a very informative board meetings. So I may even go over the 2 minutes. Sorry about that. Number one, communication is the key for everything. Even we have a very good plan, if people do not get a message, it will not mean anything to the writers. So please understand that not only maybe we should go back to 3 minutes and maybe think about that, we can also alleviate to have committee meetings to have public comments. So some of the comments, if they are on the agenda, some of the things can be discussed there. And that will be more actually efficient. So along the line to that way, also, Today, we have this issue also with partially communication and partially it's people's misconception. Now, we know there was a homicide on the health line. However, this will cause the issue about the police issue. Homicide itself can be anywhere in this country, and we have that every day. And this is the reason why all the cities and county already have a police. However, today, I'm late for the board meeting, sorry about that. That's because Healthline, again, in the morning, I witnessed an incident. For Mr. Joel Frolic there, it's the Healthline 2900. Her name is Gianna. Right now, I cannot remember her number. Because of the incident on that, it also furthered my arrival here. I try to be on time, I'm sorry. So security issue is important to riders and our bus drivers. So how about let's do this? To make good for our budget,
10
to
seconds,
actually
please.
make sure we have a proper public image for people to receive the safety issues in their mind. If we have a
Time's up.
GCRTA transit security, safety issue can be taken care of, the real crime, the city police can still take care of it. Please consider that. And the other issue, I probably will talk to maybe Dr. Caver or whomever afterwards about the safety for the drivers. Thank you.
Sheila, do we have anybody on the line?
We do. We have 2 callers on the line. Go ahead, Carlita.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. With the 15 and the 48A and the 15A route, those routes also, if you pay attention with what Eric Todd Stewart sent, those correlate with schools, hospitals, and work. Also with the Social Security offices, which are much needed to get to in each community that we're addressing. These routes can touch on those spaces as well. So it needs to be looked at again and readjusted because it is important that these people in our community of Ward 1 get to the places that they need to get to without having being put in harm's way, nor should they have to walk a distance to get to these places and bus stops. Thank you.
I believe she said there were 2 callers, correct?
In reference to the claim, can you still hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
In reference to the claim of transparency that one of your people has made, that's a misrepresentation of the truth. If you were being transparent, you would be acknowledging that, yes, the 50 and the regular 48 right now in a 15-hour period run 45 buses each way. If you put the 48A back in place the way I keep describing to you to do, it would still be 40. It would still be 45 buses. The service will be quicker, and the transfers will be easier. But you're not acknowledging the information that was conveyed to you in clear, concise elementary language, free from innuendo. And the same thing with the 15 and the 15A. Right now, the 15 runs 64 buses one way in a 16-hour period because it runs every 15 minutes. If you run it every 20 minutes, put the 15A in place as an hourly bus, you would still be talking about 64 buses in a 16-hour period, and I'm referencing during the work week. You have not acknowledged that. Flonce Cavers came on a radio broadcast and said the 50 gives service from Mount Pleasant up into the Leesville area. The 48A already did that. He wouldn't acknowledge that. It takes 5 weeks for Flonce to return a phone call and only halfway acknowledge the information that was conveyed to him. You do not need to ride the buses in order to understand what I'm telling you is correct. You could use your own database to go online and do so. And in addition to that, India Birdsong, if she was really being transparent, she would have returned one phone call, which she has not done in a year's period time. By the way, Valerie McCall, it hasn't been 6 months, it's been a year. She has not returned one phone call in a 1 year period of time at all. Don't be confused. This is not about happiness, sadness, or being pleased. This is about getting in line with the accurate assessment of the facts. You made a claim that you want to improve service to work, school, and hospital. And what you did with these routes is
10
decrease
seconds.
service efficiency to work, school, and hospitals. Now, if you really want the truth, then read the email. It's in strict elementary language. There's no innuendo there. I showed you everything.
Time's up,
forward and
sir.
backward, and it's not just a Ward 1 issue. It's a whole city issue because these routes are nine-mile routes.
Any more calls, Sheila?
That's all.
Okay, that's it, Mr. Chair.
Scheduled Tuesday, April 26, 2022, the boardroom of the authority. You may reach it by reaching it on www.RTA.com. The public is welcome to attend in person. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
So move, Luce.